you doing? Justin here, and welcome to my second series on blues lead guitar, which I'm calling All Over, because the idea here in this series is to help you learn to play all over the guitar neck, which is a pretty big deal, very cool fun. Now, I'm going to assume that you've done my first series of blues lead guitar, where we really learned about vocabulary and the importance of learning licks in pattern 1 and pattern 2, and we looked at some ways of joining them up, because we're going to be looking at patterns 3, 4 and 5 and licks and a bunch of techniques and stuff that you can use to shift position, and as well kind of mechanical things that we can learn, like unison bends and bending vibrato, those kind of fairly essential kind of blues techniques. So probably the most important thing that I hope you'll get from this series is building a framework from which you can add in things later on. You know, I started on guitar playing blues and rock, and it wasn't until way later that I learned about the cage system and major scales and those kind of technical kind of patterns. But it can be really helpful to have an understanding of the root notes on the guitar and how the patterns, the minor pentatonic patterns, kind of relate to those root notes. Because later on, if you do decide to get into more advanced or more kind of technical stuff, like using the modes and the major scale and cage system kind of concepts, it's really helpful to have a framework there already. I think it's even probably, if you're into blues and rock, that kind of stylistic stuff, or jazz, I think it can be more helpful to have a framework based around the minor pentatonic and the blues kind of vibe than it can to look at the technical stuff first. At least it was for me, and I suspect that many of you will be in the same boat of, you know, learning the minor pentatonic and a few licks and getting some phrases under your fingers and then not really sure about how to reach those other sections of the neck. So that's one of the important things we're going to be looking at along the way, is how they link together and where the root notes are, and starting to really understand the relationship between the scales and the root note, because it's a pretty massive deal, you know. And as you progress to learning to use other notes, you know, we've already been looking in the first series about adding the blue note in. So, you know, in later series we're going to be looking at adding the 6 and the 9 and how we might incorporate the major third and playing off of chords and all of that sort of more advanced stuff. But before you can get there, you really want to be able to be confident around the guitar neck, so you don't end up in a part of the neck that you feel a bit lost in, you know. Very often you'll find there's licks or phrases that will, the nature of the phrase will kind of force you out of position, and you want to be able to end up anywhere and have some ideas that you can rely on. You know, long term you want to be hoping that your ears kind of kick in and you start to hear things in your musical mind that you're trying to express, but it's still good to have some things to fall back on, some licks that you know are going to work. So I do recommend that in each different pattern that you get at least 5 licks that you can kind of, you know, you can turn to if you're feeling a bit lost or your musical mind's not giving you anything to play, you know, so you're not just floundering, so you've got somewhere to go. You know, I think that's a pretty important kind of a thing, and much later on, if you continue with it, you will find that the cage system kind of falls into place over this framework of minor pentatonic stuff, so you can end up building modal licks and that kind of stuff and incorporate it all together with your blues. So one of the things that I think you should really keep an eye out for as we progress through the course is where the sweet spots are in each one of the patterns. You know, I'm kind of hoping that you're hip with the idea that the patterns have all got the same notes. We're just using different fingers in different parts of the guitar neck. So, you know, if we take the minor pentatonic pattern 1 and pattern 2, exactly the same notes, and it's the same moving forward to pattern 3, pattern 4 and pattern 5. Okay, so you can hear it's exactly the same notes. Obviously these ones have got some higher notes in there as well, but once you realize that actually they're the same notes, what you're really looking for is where those notes feel nice under the fingers to use. You know, how can you access them? What licks, what vocabulary work really well in a particular pattern? Because you're going to find, well, nearly every lick has a kind of one pattern that it favors, one where it feels really nice under the fingers, whereas you move it to another pattern, it'll just feel, if it's possible at all, it'll just feel really awkward. So that's one of the things that you're kind of looking for. The other thing that you want to be aware of all the time is what feels good for you, because everyone's a little different. Everyone has favorite patterns and favorite areas of the neck that they like to play in. You'll notice it in the great guitar players as well. If you try and watch them sometimes instead of just listening, you'll see that, you know, Clapton seems to favor this part of the neck, and BB favors another part, and Albert King favors another part, and they all play in a different way. You know, that the really technically accomplished guys might be burning all over the guitar neck all the time, but mostly people tend to kind of find little areas of the neck that they feel more comfortable in. I do, and I'm pretty sure most of the guys I really like do as well. You know, forgiving, of course, your Robin Fords and Larry Carltons, who can burn it up in any part of the guitar neck, anywhere, anytime, any place. I, you know, can't really help you get there because I don't know how to get there myself. But, you know, for most of us, you know, you'll find that there's parts of the guitar that are more comfortable, and I think it's worth developing those areas that are comfortable for you. For sure, you know, take excursions into the more difficult parts and see if you can do it, because you might find an area that feels comfortable for you. But I always feel like the most expressive parts are the bits where I'm comfortable. I'm in a relaxed place where I can kind of hear what's going on in my musical mind and try and express myself that way. And it's rare that my musical mind takes me to somewhere that's technically very difficult to do. It does happen, but rarely. And from talking to other guitar players, it seems that they have a similar kind of experience. So do try and find the things that kind of work naturally for you as well. I think that can be a pretty important deal. So the general lie of the course, we're going to be looking at a particular scale pattern one week, and then we're going to be looking at licks from it the next week, and then we're going to intersperse that with some more technical kind of stuff like changing patterns and mechanics and those sort of things. That's the lie of the course, just to give you a bit of a rundown of what we're going to do. So before you start the course, make sure you're hit with pattern 1 and pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic, licks and vocabulary from each one. If you haven't watched the vocabulary video from the first series, that's a really big deal, the first lesson of that series, so do check that out. Do remember that there's going to be tabs and charts and scale diagrams and all that sort of thing over on the website on JustinGuitar.com. It'll make it a lot easier to learn those things, to have those kind of visual aids as well, so it's certainly a lot easier than using a YouTube playlist, although I would definitely appreciate a subscription if you dig what I do. You know, click that subscribe button, it's, you know, share the love, and if you want to find out all of the new stuff I got going on, of which there's loads of exciting things, do sign up for the JustinGuitar.com newsletter as well over on the website. So I really hope you enjoy this course, and I'll see you for the next lesson very soon. You take care of yourselves. Bye bye.